Hello again, just making another quick video to show you what I've done for the third project. I've decided to make a quiz based on flags of the world. So as always, started out by doing a quick sketch. Getting into the habit of this method of working through the building up an app seems to work quite well. So this was the initial sketch that I did. Quite a simple layout really. A header at the top of the screen and then a series of sort of cards with each question. Each question will have an image at the top of the view and then the question itself and then the answers, whether that's checkboxes, radio buttons or the edit text view. And they'll all just be arranged one on top of the other, and then at the very bottom a button to submit your answers. So thinking about how these would work in terms of views, obviously all these views aren't going to fit into a single screen, so we're going to need a scroll view, which would be the root view for the app. Then within that, a vertical linear layout, including a text view for the heading, and then each question will be built up using a vertical linear layout with an image view at the top, a text view for the question, and then a series of either checkboxes, radio buttons, or an edit text field to input the answers. And we'd need 10 of these vertical linear layouts, one for each of the questions. And then finally at the bottom, a button for submitting the answers. So it's quite simple layout really. Utilising a number of different views, etc. So that was the sketch that I'd done and the plan altogether and across in Android Studio. I started by building up the XML. So as you see, scroll view here is the root view, and then within that the linear layout, and then text view, etc, etc, etc. Not going to go through all of that because it's quite a lot. In terms of interesting things about the XML, you'll see in the preview screen here, I've got this sort of border around each of the questions to sort of separate them out. This was done using an XML within the drawables folder. I created a new XML called question border. If I open that up, within this you can define a shape. So using this Android shape attribute, I've created a rectangle. I've set the background color, the color and width of the border, and this radius that's on the corner. And then back in the activity XML, on the layout for the question, I've set this drawable to the background of the layout. And it appears like so. What else is different? Radio buttons is something I hadn't used before. In question 1 they're used here. One thing to note is to put them within a radio group. That means that only one of these 4 radio buttons can be selected at any one time. And if you select another one, then it will automatically deselect the one that was previously selected, which helps a lot. You don't have to do lots of complicated coding in the Java to deselect and select and whatnot. So this radio group, view group type is really useful. Another thing I've done is utilize the values folder as much as possible. So I've defined all my colors in here. Colors are used for the background and the border and the default theme colors for the app. I've defined my dimensions in here for the various padding and margins that have been used. Strings, all of the strings that I've used are in here. For the header, this is for the toast message that is used in the Java. all the individual questions, and then all of the individual answers as well. And finally, in the styles XML, after the main app theme, I created a font style for the heading, for the questions, and for the answers. And they're all utilized back within the main activity. So really hopefully kept that as clean as possible in here and easily manageable. Just close these. Over in the Java, quite straightforward. I only have the one global variable, which is to keep track of the score, which is created globally. This method is what's called when the user clicks the Submit Answers button. So it sets the score to 0, it then runs each individual method that I've created for each of the questions and totals up the score. Then creates a string based on this score. This is one bit that took a little bit of working, because obviously the score is stored as an integer. So then when I want to use that as within this string variable, which I have in this XML, so I have the toast message, which I want the variable of the score out of 11 correct. So this %s calls a string variable from the Java, which is input in this line here. But first, I have to take the score variable and convert it to a string. So I've got string, score string, which equals a string to the value of, and then the score variable. And that converts whatever integer score is into a string. And then it can then be used in the next line of code, which is create a string for the toast message. It then calls the string from my string XML, which is a toast message, and then inputs the score string variable in its place. Hopefully that made sense. It was quite wordy and long, but hopefully you followed that. Then I just create the toast message and display it. Looking at each of the individual questions, this is quite simple. For question 1, just checking that the correct radio button is checked, and it will add 1 to the score. Question 2, and this is a checkbox based question. So this one checks that the correct answer checkboxes are checked, and then also checks, using this exclamation mark, that the incorrect answers are not checked. And if that's all the case, then it will add 1 to the score. Question 3 is another radio button. Question 4 was an edit text question. So initially takes whatever answer the user's input, creates a string based on that. So it takes the edit text and creates a string, get text to string. I've also included this .trim method, just in case the user has accidentally included any sort of empty spaces after their answer, which then won't match up with what I put as the correct answer. So this trim method removes any empty spaces from the start or end of the answer. And then I've got an if statement to check that this new answer string matches the correct answer string, which I've also stored in the strings XML. 5 is another radio button. 6 checkboxes again. 7 is another edit text. So working in the same way as before, taking the user answer, converting to a string, trimming off empty spaces, and then because this is a worded answer, you don't know if the user is going to use capitalization or whatever, so instead of just equals, this is equals ignore case, which ignores any capital letters or whatever case of characters the user has decided to use. and then again checks it with the correct answer. 8's a radio button, 9's a radio button. So the only other interesting one is question 10, which actually has 2 separate edit text fields, which are worth 1 point per answer. So this, same as before, creates a string based on the user's answer and then checks if it matches the correct answer. So for field 1, if they have answer 1, the name of the first country correct, they get a point. If they've answered what I've called the second country correct, they also get a point. And then it checks the second text field and checks against the 2 potential correct answers again. But in this one, it also checks that the first edit text field does not also contain the same answer. So a user can't get 2 points simply by entering the same correct answer twice. And that's pretty much it. As I say, quite straightforward really. All works very well. I'll put up some pictures of the app being run on my phone as well, so you can see it. But yes, that's the final thing. This is in portrait mode, and I also created a landscape mode as it starts. You'll see the preview soon, hopefully. Yeah, so landscape mode is exactly the same XML. The only small difference is I've added some margin to the overall vertical linear layout, just to create some extra space on the left and right hand side of the screen. Before it was pretty much the full width of the screen, and when it was difficult to use because the images were too big and it was difficult to get the question and the answers on the screen at the same time. I just felt it was a lot more usable with this additional margin to the other side. So yeah, that's it finally. As I say, I'll put the screenshots from my phone up, and at the moment I've just created this app based on fulfilling the requirements of the project rubric, which is put online. So it meets all of those requirements. There is a few more sort of features and things that I would like to add that go beyond the scope of that rubric, but I thought I would just share this with you at this stage, so you can see what it is. If you've got any feedback or questions or anything, let me know, that'd be great. And I'll also probably post again once I've updated it with a few more features and things like that. Okay, I've rambled on enough now. Thanks for watching.